Welcome to Private Screening, a made-for-fun podcast made to document our thoughts on COVID's impact on the entertainment industry as a whole. I'm Sam.
And I'm Grant. Neither of us have any experience at all doing any of this story making or storytelling or anything along those lines. And I hope that you had a great Thanksgiving at the time of this recording because we've finished Thanksgiving break. That's right.
We sure did. I hope you watched Freebirds.
I
sincerely
watched my
hope.
Freebirds.
I sincerely hope you made it a good Thanksgiving and, you know,
I
salvaged your souls.
I had a perfect balance of good and bad movies this week.
Was one of them Freebirds?
This past week. It was my Freebirds. So.
Grant, that's not what I was asking. Was it Freebirds?
It was, and I gave my answers. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just making sure. I'm looking out for
you.
you.
Oh, yeah, no. I get you.
I just want to make sure you go to Turkey Paradise.
This is important. No.
Yeah. It's all good. I've actually been, out of all parts of the podcast today, this is actually the beginning part that I've been looking forward to most. I say that because I have come ready with a rebuttal that I've been waiting so long to give. So, Grant.
On what?
Episode 4,
topic?
Private Screening, a monumentous occasion, right?
Yes.
It was our first binge review of 6 Aunt movies. And you may remember that at the end, we had a little discussion about a certain king shark.
I think, okay.
And I was very much in favor of my comrade in arms, but you were disgraceful towards him on the basis that he did the least out of the entire Suicide Squad team, and I have been losing sleep over that, and I have been tossing and turning and brooding, and I have not forgotten what you said, and I come
Shazam.
I come ready. I'm sorry.
You rewatched Shazam in a desperate plea to get over this.
No, I just have to come back after all these months.
Okay.
King Shark is not the worst member of the Suicide Squad in that movie. He was just the most underutilized by the team because he was constantly the butt of the joke. So, how about that?
But he still did the least.
I mean, yeah, but that doesn't make him the weakest member.
But it kind of do. So...
No.
No, well...
No.
I mean, you can take facts and put them in whatever kind of light you want, but facts are facts nonetheless.
Grant, that's your opinion, all right? We could talk about
Sam,
this all day.
Saying that's yes,
I can. What are you going to do to stop me? That's literally your opinion.
That's why the debate club got shut down at your school. The reason you got shut down is because budget cuts didn't allow you to keep saying that's your opinion every time.
That's your opinion.
How do you feel about that? How's your opinion?
I feel like that's your opinion.
You keep saying that's your opinion,
okay,
but you
this
never
conversation
ask how's
is
your
over.
opinion.
This conversation.
Let's get off this.
End of podcast. End the episode right now. All right, shortest one. 3 minutes. We're done.
Sign off.
Yep. Bye.
I don't care about everything else that we have planned.
Yeah. In all seriousness, this is episode 5. Having a great time. Yeah. Happy Thanksgiving.
We got our first episode published.
We did.
At the time of this recording.
We're 8 months late, but
views.
It was pretty fun. 43?
Yeah, 23 at the
23.
time of recording.
That's pretty good.
So, yeah. For 5 days, I mean, that's an average of at least 8.
Mm-hmm.
That's my college-level math skills at work right there. You're welcome.
Good job, Grant.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right.
But,
well, with all the small stuff out of the way, you know what I'm saying? We can get into the main events, which is to say a lot of them.
Yeah, that's true. Because it's just kind of like episode 4 again, but with like fall stuff this time. So
right. I would like to eventually get back into focusing on one movie like we did in the early days.
Singular stuff, but like that requires us to be very well organized,
which
is not us at the moment.
I mean, that's your opinion.
Oh.
But anyways, to begin with, we have the end of the fall season, and that brings with it a lot of implications and things to look at when it comes to the box office and streaming service performance that goes with it.
Yeah.
So would you like to start there?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good starting off point, kind of recapping what we've gone through.
So 2021 was always going to be better than 2020, just on the merit of us recovering from COVID at better rate than usual.
Exactly, because the bar is incredibly low, because, like, COVID, again, really did do a number on the movie industry, so a lot of stuff that we were expecting got pushed back or canceled or like shoveled onto a streaming service. So
Yep.
it's kind of weird because like when you look at it, like look at 2018 or 2019 and look at the box office numbers and compare it to like this year 2021, it's rather bizarre because it's like none of our American movies are like really grossing that much money. Like you think about like Endgame and that like almost broke 2 billion or something like that, and now it's like one of our highest grossing movies was like Fast and the Furious 9, and that only got like 200 million. So
The drop off is pretty insane. Like, yeah.
yeah, it does make you kind of question, like, you ever think we're going to get back to the standard numbers, or is this going to redefine the norm of box office numbers?
Well, it's funny
As a
you should
whole.
ask that specific question because my jumping off point for a thesis was actually that it's looking pretty good for theaters in general. In
That's
fact,
good.
speaking of that, October 21, in terms of box office performance, is the highest out of the entire pandemic thus far, excuse me.
And I can totally see why.
We got a whopping total actually, of 638 million between all of these fall releases.
Yeah, that's pretty decent for, like, pandemic numbers. So,
Absolutely. That tops, what was it last time? July had a 583.8 million. That was the previous record before October.
yeah. Well, we all know what came out in July, so...
It's still behind. What's also interesting about this is that it was behind 2019's overall gross of the same season, which was 789.5 million. But
Really?
having said that, it's also ahead of 2018 when there was no pandemic with 832 million.
Yeah. Well, I know 2019 got crazy because, like, there was, like, 4 different movies that grossed over $1 billion. Like, Captain Marvel hit that, Endgame definitely hit that, and then those live-action Disney remakes hit that, at least. So, I feel like that would certainly increase the average as a whole versus what we're witnessing right now.
Can I just say that I just realized that I made a mistake? I
I
said it was behind 2019 and in front of 2018, but 2018 was still higher. I meant to say that it was in front of 2017, which was 569.8 million. That's my
Got
mistake.
it.
I'm just saying
Yeah,
that
okay,
here so
there
we
you
don't get angry comments from the 23 people who watch our videos.
Yes, we're gonna
Yeah,
get
no.
the one comment. It's
We
just
gotta
gonna be
avoid
pointing out
that.
the one error at the 6-minute mark.
Hey, I consolidate. I'm ready for these things, all right?
Yeah, you
Revisions.
better.
So we can go
Visionary
through what the data
podcast
looks
member.
like. Before that, I wanted to focus on a little bit of streaming service news. We touched base
Okay.
on these big boys kind of a while back in April or May. I
Yeah,
just
one
kind
of
of
our
wanted to
first
see where they are
episodes.
now and just kind of get our opinions as of today. I've made, I don't want to just be about me, but I've made a lot of strides in the streaming service market as of late.
As have I.
I got Disney Plus, even though I
there
kind
you
of
go.
didn't
Yeah,
want
yeah.
to. What
No,
else?
it's good. It's good. You can watch all the Marvel stuff now and Star
I
Wars.
can. I sure can.
And you can shill for their products, so we can farm views and get more people on our
I still
podcast.
refuse to pay for the Premier Access thing, even though I haven't really. I know Black Widow had it, but I haven't really seen that since.
There's been a couple. I know Black Widow did it. I actually saw that over the summer.
Oh,
Like,
Jungle
someone else had
Cruise
Disney
also
Plus.
did it.
Oh, Raya and the Last Dragon, that animated movie, that had
Yeah.
it, I believe.
I think we've talked about that movie.
Well, it's
before.
weird because it's not like every single movie that they're premiering does
No.
that. It's like a pick and choose system.
Yeah, for some reason,
it?
all the Pixar movies have been vetoed the Premier Access.
What if you had to do premiere access for Luca?
There was no Premier Access.
What if you had to,
It
though?
just
That's what I'm
dropped.
saying. It's the
I know.
hypothetical. What would you do?
I would still wait because I would hypothetically not like it as much as I did having watched it because in that hypothetical situation, I wouldn't have seen it yet.
But it's your favorite movie of 2021 so far.
It is. But I wouldn't
You're
have
not
known that
willing
until I
to
waited for the Premier
shell out
Access.
$30 for that?
Well, see, you say it like I would have known that it was my favorite movie of 2021 before I saw it.
I mean, I'm not saying I didn't know that.
I didn't know that. I sure didn't know that.
All I know is you are gonna do the premiere access for live action Bambi. Let's get real. Come
All
on.
I know is that is your opinion, and I am 5 seconds away from ending this episode if you bring up
Alright.
that monstrosity again.
Let's move that down to 2 seconds because I will see that in the theaters.
No!
and I will report it
Grant,
to you.
Grant, no, you will actually, I will stop you.
No, I will.
No! Why would
Don't
you
touch
do
me.
that?
Don't. Because
This is a PSA for
cinema.
anyone watching. Do not watch the live action Bambi. I was fine. I was young and naive with all of the other ones. I am putting my foot down now. Cancel it.
no, this.
I'm
yeah,
not
live
talking-
action
I'm not
Bambi
talking
for you is like
redesign.
live action Lion King for YMS.
I am not
So,
talking get the characters redesigned. I am talking about shut it down. We cannot have this released.
Cancel this movie. We don't want it no more.
It
Get
would
him
make
outta
me
here.
very happy.
It's not gonna happen. You know what's gonna come out. The trailer is gonna pop
And
up.
you're
any
not
day.
going to see it.
That's your opinion.
No. Where was I?
Disney
Oh yeah,
Plus.
streaming service news. I'm gonna repress everything that just happened.
Hulu.
So-
Go on.
Yeah, just going down the list. HBO Max in particular has had nothing really noteworthy happen to them, besides I guess accidentally
I mean, they're
censoring
still doing
Birds
their
of Prey.
movies. Oh yeah, they had that. That was a thing. They censored Birds of Prey for why?
Some reason. I think it was an accident. Ooh boy, I haven't
Well-
seen Birds of Prey in a while, so I don't
Well, I
really
guess my
remember
question
what there
is,
is to
like-
censor.
I mean, I did see it. I forgot about it, but
Same.
like, it makes me wonder: is it like an alternate cut kind of a deal, or is it you can only watch the censored version?
From what I know, it was some sort of TV cut that was the censored thing that they accidentally put on their site.
Kind of whack. But like, it's so weird because like you know that like in a month they're gonna re-release the Suicide Squad back on HBO Max, and so I find it bizarre because comparing those two movies, the Suicide Squad is a far more like R-rated movie than Birds of Prey. So I kind of question why did you even censor it in the first place?
Yeah, you would have thought they'd be more on top of that.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
Oh, well.
Warner Brothers.
not worth
bad.
too much hassle.
It's not. Yeah, because that's the thing the internet loves saying every day. Don't know
Maybe.
why, but
I think you mean Warner Brothers Blueprint.
no, because that's implying a positive thing, and we don't
Oh.
like Warner Brothers, even though they have DC and they're the only reason we could get our movie. So it's really
Okay.
showing off all
Well,
those brain
moving
cells
on.
you have hard at work.
HBO
So-
Max isn't worth the trouble right now.
Hmm.
Beyond that, it's Cyber Monday coming up.
That's true.
A boatload of deals that go with that. One noteworthy one that is actually kind of boggling my mind is Hulu. Have you heard of this?
I haven't actually, so
99 cents a month for a year. Cyber Monday.
dang, that's a steal.
Yeah, no joke.
Yeah,
I
like-
actually I don't know if I misplaced a decimal or if they misplaced one, but that caught me off guard.
No, it's supposed to say $9.99 a month. You forgot the extra 9.
Oh. Peacock. This is just a podcast of one now. Peacock Premium is also being dropped for Cyber Monday. It's
Okay.
available for $2.49 for 6 months. If anyone here is really, really excited about Peacock, I guess you can just use the promo code today to get it. Peacock has one movie that we're going to talk about on here that is noteworthy, but other than that, I haven't really heard a lot from them.
Yeah, well, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the whole hook of Peacock where it's like, oh, you get this whole streaming service, but it's free, but then if you actually use it, you get commercials and everything, and if you want the premium experience, you have to pay for it.
Well, no, because there's an ad-supported tier, but there also isn't. So I'm guessing there was always a price for it either way, but it might have been fixed. See, it's tricky because I don't really care enough about Peacock to really look at it.
Me neither, to be totally fair.
I care a little bit more about Paramount Plus Their Cyber Monday deal is just that they have the premium ad-free version and the ad-supported version. The former being at $9.99 monthly, while the essential ad-supported version is $4.99 monthly.
Yeah.
And that
I know they
includes...
kind of made... Yeah, I mean, well... I know that Paramount Plus kind of made news because they did like a $900 million deal with the creators of South Park, and now it's like the two of them, Trey Parker and Matt Stone, if I remember correctly, both of them
That's
have
their
to make
names.
like 16 seasons and 9 movies for all that money. And
Really?
it's going to be exclusive. Well,
That's news to me.
I might be getting like the exact numbers wrong, but like it's this crazy deal where it's like they're going to make all of the South Park content exclusive for Paramount Plus.
That's a boost.
Yeah.
How many seasons are... There's a movie. How many seasons are there as is? Because I know you've seen all of them.
I actually, freshman year of college, I binged all of it during fall semester. I think it was like 23.
My goodness.
Yeah, because like it started back in the 90s and it's still going on today. So and they always like they do topics about like relevant stuff. So
Oh, they
because I
must be having
remember
a field day now.
the last thing I watched was like it was on COVID and it was like a 1 hour COVID special, and then they made one for the vaccine. And they actually just recently, like, I think that first Paramount Plus special got released where it was, like, post-COVID. But then, like, the hook was all of the characters are grown up. I haven't seen it, but that's all I've seen on the internet.
Okay.
So.
Well, that's happening on Paramount Plus.
That's how it works?
We haven't talked about Discovery Plus at all. Hulu, we've gone over that thing.
Yeah.
There really is... I don't know. Netflix doesn't really have one because they don't need to. Sling TV.
Netflix is Netflix. You don't really need to expand on that. And then
I'm just looking down this list, and there are so many exclusive new COVID streaming services that I haven't even heard of before, like Philo.
yeah, no, it's
Discovery
weird because
Plus.
like you'll have like streaming services that are like focused on one specific thing that if you're like a big fan of that thing, you're gonna like totally find it. Like for example, there's that one streaming service called Shudder, and that is like exclusively for horror.
That's exclusive to horror. That one looks cool.
Yeah, and then you get something like Crunchyroll, and that's like exclusively anime and stuff like that. So, because like you do have like the big headliners like Netflix, Hulu, HBO Max, and they have like a little bit of everything. But we're getting to this point where like streaming services are becoming the new norm, where you can either just have the base deal with one of the big streaming services, or if you want to have like an exclusive fix on something you're really interested in, you can most likely find a streaming service dedicated to that one thing.
That's fair.
Well, because it's like the evolution of like TV, because like back in the day it was all about cable, but now it's just cable again, but on demand.
It's more expedient, I think, is the trend.
Yeah, it's the exact same thing, except you just don't have to wait till Thursday to watch what you want to watch. So
You can just have it on the go, ready.
yeah, on your phone, on your watch, on your computer, on your monitor, on your refrigerator.
Talked about streaming services, and now we gotta go movie theaters, Grant. That's the other part of this.
Well, I thought we already got there. That's what we started on.
Well, we talked about how it outperformed 2020's October-September period of the year, but
So now we're pitting the two against each other now that we have analyzed
maybe
all of
I just
their
want to
weapons,
summarize the
stats, and
data
abilities.
because we got to prove that we did our research with this. Whereas, so you got me distracted.
Yeah, I know. It's my specialty.
Yeah, it is. So anyways, what makes the September-October fall period for 2021 especially interesting when you take everything into account is that whereas with previous periods of this year where you would have new releases that started out with a huge gross opening weekend before sizzling out a la Black Widow, you kind of have a change in that trend where new releases in this period for the fall are maintaining momentum when it comes to people going to the theater to see them. So you're seeing a more steady, constant rate of profit as they come out, which I believe suggests a turning point.
Yeah,
And that also translates...
More and more people are going to the theater, right?
Absolutely. And I think that also translates into streaming services too. Because I think it's fair to say that before you had a lot more people the influx was towards streaming services and that people preferred staying at home when COVID was
That's
young
fair. Yeah. I
and shutting
mean,
down theaters.
at that point, it was more mandatory than just like a preference.
Right, that was the law.
So that's kind of like when we had that early stage and like you had a movie like Trolls World Tour and it's like, okay, we're going to go exclusively streaming. Like that was kind of when we saw people first experimenting with how are we going to distribute movies, but with this new pandemic. So it really did kind of show how creative people were getting. And from that, we've seen stuff like HBO Max shoveling out their new, you can just watch the movie at home or you can go see it at theaters. So it's really going to be, I want to see how it ages, I guess is the point I'm trying to inevitably get at. Because,
It's a running motif.
yeah, like, it makes me wonder, it's like, in 2026, is it going to be like, okay, is it still going to maintain this whole, you can see it at home or you can see it at theaters, or is this going to be like a fad with the pandemic and truly make you just appreciate this time we have before
I'm
you have
sure
to
streaming
go
services will
back
stick
to the
around
theater
in
and
some
pay
way,
$8
shape, or
for
form.
popcorn and then see the movie. So
Something to think about. But
It
yeah,
is.
the dynamic with streaming services in theaters in this situation especially is something that I find interesting because it was always kind of up in the air. And I think that's in a way that still holds true for today.
okay.
Because even during the summer with stuff like Space Jam 2 and the Suicide Squad, those were situations where they were definitely more popular on streaming services just by viewership numbers alone.
Yeah, like if you look at the charts, it's like those broke like 5 million views, or like it's their most. I forget the exact number, but it's like those two are like HBO Max's most watched like exclusive releases. So, because the question I'm always asking, I'm still trying to figure out is like when you take a situation like that and you have all those numbers, and it's like okay, we got 75 million views off of this one movie. Like, I guess my question is, how do you calculate that monetarily speaking? So it's like, is one view have like an average dollar worth or something? So it's like one view gets us $3. Like, is there like a way you calculate that, or is it like
I know
is there a
the
way you can
primary
ratio out
source
the new
of
viewers or
monetary
something?
value is through subscriptions.
Yeah, because you'd have more people paying for it in order to get access to it, but it would just be problematic because you know that there's definitely a lot of people out there that would be pirating the movie, so you're not getting money off of that.
So in a way, that is a difficulty. And the back and forth is still going on between which exclusive releases are doing better in theaters versus streaming services.
Yeah,
But I
like
bring up
going
this
back to the
relationship-
Suicide Squad. Yeah, like sorry. When you go back to the Suicide Squad, that's a big one because it's like I think its box office was only like 180 million, but then at the same time, it's also like HBO Max's most viewed exclusive release. So it kind of makes you wonder, like, what do you think that would have looked like without the streaming service? Like, hypothetically speaking, if there was no pandemic, like, what do you think the numbers would have looked like there? So
Yeah. And so
would it look a lot different if there was no pandemic? We'd
probably that's a very
one
fair
director's
assumption.
cut short, and the world would be a slightly better place.
The iTunes reviews would be less funny though. You have
iTunes
to admit.
reviews. I mean, you got a point. iTunes reviews in certain situations
Are
the gold
muy
mine of the people's
comico.
opinion.
Yes.
So
But yeah. I just that relationship I think is worth noting just because it's still ongoing. It's kind of hard to predict movie to movie which one's going to do better on which service, but the 2021 box office on the whole kind of mark a shift where theater exclusive releases are doing a number to hold their own while also competing with streaming services. Namely with
see.
Shang-Chi and Free Guy especially.
Free Guy.
Kind of, I think it's fair to say, outperformed what they were expected to based on previous trends. So I also
That
think
makes
it's fair to
sense.
say that theaters are making a turnaround, and I also want to say
say
that
so.
they'll make it in some way, shape, or form. But looking at it, streaming services, especially the ones here now, are probably here to stay.
I would agree. Like, I think at the end of the day, once the dust settles and we kind of move on, I do think theaters are still going to be standing. but I do think that the landscape is going to change in some way, shape, or form. Like, I'm not sure if we've already seen that with, like, how HBO Max is doing it with their movies again, or if, like, something else is going to pop up, but I do think how we see movies today is definitely going to be altered thanks to the pandemic. So.
And for now, that's just what we're looking at. But more importantly, we have some movies to thank for these trends, too.
Yeah, that's true.
That we'll be talking about. Some of them were released on streaming services, some exclusively to theaters, and some of them both.
It's true. Looking at the list.
Yep.
And I think you can see it on the thumbnail, maybe.
Maybe, perhaps.
But I mean,
we're still thinking about it.
Yeah, once you get around to editing it next May. So.
Yep.
Do I go for it?
Yeah. So I guess
right. I already name dropped it 4 minutes ago. Sort of, if you were.
It's a noteworthy release because it was a huge. Which streaming service was it on?
This was actually Amazon Prime.
Cool.
This, if I'm hearing correctly, this was like Amazon Prime's most watched original movie.
All right.
So this is Tomorrow War.
Rated R.
I think I'm the only one that saw it out of the two of us. So this is going to be
not seen it, but I've heard of it.
Okay, so this is going to be like a me exclusive for the first one, but
I'll interview you. What motivated you to see this?
So because I was able to get access to the Amazon Prime streaming service, I've been trying to like utilize that in a couple of ways. So like I saw Invincible, I want to see The Boys, inevitably once I get around to that, and so I've been like trying to like justify with the Amazon Prime streaming service. So I heard a lot about the Tomorrow War, and it's actually funny because this was the first movie I watched because after I finished my second movie poster, because once I finally got around to seeing The Godfather again, I kind of just said I just want to catch up on stuff that I've been missing. And I remember a lot of people were looking at the Tomorrow War, so I said, okay, let me play some catch up here. So I started there. And yeah, that was my motive. Pretty flimsy.
Do you know what all the fuss is about now that you've seen it?
I wish, but I don't really think it's good. So
yeah, you're gonna have to explain. Yeah, you're gonna have to explain the concept to me. It's some sort of alien invasion, time travel thing.
I saw the plot, so let me explain to you. Let me break it down for you. So
should we drop a spoiler warning?
Yeah. Well,
all right.
I won't go immediately, but like inevitably I'll hit spoilers and I'll try to mark it. But
okay.
So. Here we go. So Chris Pratt is a family man. He has a loving wife and not yet, not yet technically, because at that point we haven't gotten to that point in the canon. So he's not Mario yet. So I know if he was, that would be half a star better. But we can't have nice things. Anyways, Chris Pratt is a family man, and so they're at a Christmas party at his house, but then they're watching like a random soccer game, but then people from the future teleport into the soccer game and they say, Earth is getting destroyed by aliens. Our plan is to take you and transport you to the future and require you to fight 1 week of war against these aliens. And so the whole movie is like in Chris Pratt's perspective, and so it's bizarre
like
because
drafted from the future.
No, because like it takes place in I think it's like 2022, so it's like it's supposed to kind of be modern day, but then it's like all the Tomorrow War itself takes place in like 2052. So you get all this stuff where it's like he gets drafted, and then a lot of the first hour isn't really action. It's just like a lot of this setup, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So he gets drafted, he goes to the future, fights some aliens, and then spoilers from here on out, he learns some crazy stuff, like he reconnects with his daughter, who's like in the future now, and then they find the solution, but then his daughter sacrifices himself, but then there's a really contrived plot twist, and then they solve that plot twist, and then you get the best possible ending, except for the fact that they're going to make a sequel, which I do not know how they are going to make.
Okay.
So that's the general plot synopsis.
Sounds like it has the makings of an interesting movie.
Yeah, okay, because like that's the thing. When I kind of look at this more like a stripped down, detail free kind of an angle, I actually think there is some potential. Like I think maybe doing, because time travel itself can always be a fun concept. You know, You have good stuff like Groundhog's Day and Back to the Future that really take time concepts in an interesting direction and really like explore them and kind of look at the ins and outs and have interesting implications and explorations of those ideas. So I don't think there's anything inherently wrong in of itself to do that with this movie. It's just that its plot is very, very poorly written. So anything that it tries to do with the time travel just feels very contrived and just non-existent almost. There's nothing that they do to explore it. And quite honestly, it's really boring because, as I already said, the first hour of the movie isn't action. Like, it's just all this setup because it's like there's a scene where Chris Pratt is like a science teacher at like a high school, and then like he has this one student
Mark
that just
Wahlberg moment.
I know, it's the happening
Exactly.
remake finally, but yeah, he's just trying to like teach something to his students, but then like there's one student that loves volcanoes for no reason, and the only reason that they have
Why?
that scene, well, it's because so when you get to the plot twist, the whole crazy thing is that you think the aliens invade from space or something, but the plot twist is that the aliens were like buried in ice on Earth, and because of global warming, they like broke free, and so the only reason you're able to like fully understand that is because of the volcano kid. So you have that one scene at the beginning in order to make that scene at the end connect.
Okay.
Well, that's just the light stuff. Like, that's not the heavy hitting stuff at all. So
I don't like. Did you really have to include one specific volcano loving character to do that though? That seems really contrived, like you said.
I know, because there are plenty of ways to work around this because this script is not well written. But it's just really kind of frustrating because you have all this stuff, and then it's like it's really weird because you have all these like civilians, like they don't really do any training with them, and like it really feels like they're incredibly like underprepared to fight this. Like when they do training, they have like a normal human like target practice, but then once you inevitably get introduced to the aliens, like they look very, very not human. You can probably throw a picture up right here or something like that. They're called like, I think in the movie they're called like white spikes or something, and it's because they're white, and I think they can shoot spikes out of their tails. So
Okay.
it kind of when I see something like that, it really reminds me of like a bad science fiction movie where it's like they're so desperately trying to make like this have an impression on your mind and really just kind of like stick out and like
trying
really
to
kind
make
of
it
like,
iconic or something.
yeah, like really give it its own like identity that really makes you like, wow, The Tomorrow War, what a good movie. But like it foregoes all of the actual writing to get that status. So in the end, it just comes off as a desperate ploy, and that is the only reason I remember that. So good job, Amazon, Bezos. But,
Yeah, I don't know about that one, Grant. I know
Yeah.
Sam Richardson's in it. That's like the only reason I would see it. I like him.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really just kind of frustrating because it really is just like, it's dumb because this is the type of movie that feels like it'd be a perfect, like, just dumb action movie that you could just sit down for like hour, 40 minutes, 2 hours, just get some mindless action in and all that. But the problem is that this movie spends so much time, like, trying to explain the time rules that it feels like it's silently telling you, no, this is like something you gotta think about, which is incredibly problematic because it's a lot to get into, but like there's so many like plot holes and just issues with the time travel.
Just the disparity between what it's going for.
Well, it's because like with time travel itself, there are so little movies that introduce like a time travel mechanic that is very consistent throughout the entire film. So it just like there's a whole scene where it's like you have like a bunch of like these people that are like, and Chris Pratt's there, and they're like asking all these questions that like you would theoretically hypothesize while you're watching it, and like some make sense, but then there's others that are really weird where it's like, why can't we just control where we time travel? And it's like, oh, with the time travel there's only two spots, now in the future, and both of them move forward, but you can't jump forward and you can't jump back. And it's like, it's very ambitious, but it's not fleshed out at all. So in the end, it's very frustrating.
They just didn't care enough to really polish out all the...
Well, no, exactly. And it's so bizarre because a huge problem I have with the movie is that it's like 2 hours and 20 minutes, and it just does not earn that runtime. Because it's very weird, because I guess this is where I'll drop the spoilers, so you can put the warning up on the screen now. But, like, there's near the end of the second act, once Chris Pratt and his future daughter, they're, like, at this, base in the ocean or something like that, but then all of the aliens apparently now know how to swim and they're attacking the base. You get this whole scene where there's all this stuff going on, and then, like, in the end, Chris Pratt's daughter sacrifices herself. And the way that it's, like, presented, it really makes me think it's like, oh, this is going to be, like, kind of a cliffhanger ending. And they're going to leave stuff unresolved. And, like, that's how you easily hook a sequel or something with how it was presented.
Right.
But then I checked the runtime, and there's, like, 40 minutes left. And so, because that's, at that point, that's when he gets sent back with, like, because the big MacGuffin of the movie is, like, some cure to stop the aliens or something. Or it's, like, a toxin, but he gets sent back with the toxin, but, like, it just makes you feel like, oh, it's just going to be, like, a tease for the future. But no, it's, like, he gets the toxin, and then 2 scenes later, he's, like, talking to people. And then that's when we get to the whole contrived global warming plot twist. And it's just, it really feels incredibly poorly paced. So,
yeah,
like,
that sounds really tiresome, actually.
It's
sorry.
very, again, it is poorly paced. And it's, like, there's just other creative decisions, I think, that really kind of hold it back. I think another big one is the fact that this movie's PG-13 to get that wide audience view, because I feel like with something like
that
this...
checks out with the streaming service appeal.
Yeah, because you just want to get as many eyes as possible, but I feel like if this did go for, like, an R rating and kind of just, like, go for that war setting a bit more, quote-unquote, realistically, because they were insisting on being, like, a smart movie you think about, I think having a more accurate depiction of everything would have been smart and would have been the better decision. But it's really frustrating because I think the one scene that always sticks in my mind is, like, the scene where they get teleported into the future for the first time. Because it's this whole elaborate setup with, like, so many problems going on with it. So to begin with, like, their way of teleporting into the future is, like, they all stand in this room and then they just get, like, sucked into, like, this, like, portal ceiling, and then they get immediately teleported to the future in, like, Miami or something. I do. It's the upside down pipe in Mario. It's, the Easter eggs are all there, but
Choose a star.
well, the thing is, like, it's very funny because for whatever reason, no reason actually, the machine just messes up. So originally they're like, okay, you're gonna be teleported at Miami Beach, like 5 feet in the air and something like that. But then the machine messes up for no reason, so then they get teleported.
That is very inefficient.
Yeah, and they get teleported, and then, like, everyone in the room just gets teleported, like, in the sky, and so they're, like, falling out of the air, and, like, and they're all screaming, and they're just, like, plummeting. And it's, like, what really kind of frustrates me is that they have no, like, safety precautions, like, no one was given,
At
like,
all.
a pair. Yeah, nothing.
If they're
like,
sending people to fight, you have to
no,
make
like, seriously,
sure that's
in
good.
that scene, like, one character in the movie is, like, the comic relief sidekick of Chris Pratt. And,
Oh,
like,
is it Sam Richardson?
let me look it up. Let's see.
I'm sorry. I'm
No,
kind
you're
of
good, you're good.
fanboy.
No, you're good.
I'm grasping at straws here to like something about the movie.
No, that's good. It's good. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, it was. So Sam Richardson
he better
is
survive.
Spoilers. I think he does. Or, wow, this movie is so forgettable. I don't know if he lived. Oh my goodness.
You get the pass.
No, because I'm thinking about the ending and, like, they have a bunch of characters and I know a couple of them sacrifice themselves just like in Aliens, but, I can't remember if he lives. Man, wow. But
It's fine.
yeah, so anyway, so it's in the scene and, like, he's, like, looking at his gun and he's like, oh wow, he's, like, fiddling around with it comically, like, right before they get teleported in. And so, but Chris Pratt, because part of his character is like, oh, I served in, like, the war in the past, so, like, I know all these things, and that's why, like, I'm better than the average person, and that's why I can live
Smarter
and all
than
that.
the average bear, as they say.
And, I know, because Dan Aykroyd was in that film in this universe, but, yeah. It's just, it really confuses me, because, like, they did not train all of these completely normal people at all, and it very clearly shows in, like, that scene. But, like, when you see that teleport scene, like, it doesn't make you question, it's like, you don't have like a parachute or any like safety precautions to prevent this. Because I get that they want to have like some exciting action scene, but it really just came off as like a very stupid decision on the screenwriter's part. So, personally speaking, it did not achieve the intended effect that they wanted. Because, and then the scene also really does cement the PG-13 rating because like I remember distinctly you get like these two shots where you see people falling out of the sky and then like slamming their head on the side of a building, then plummeting down to the street. But like it has no impact. It feels incredibly CGI'd and there's like no blood spurt or anything. So it makes you kind of like, it really takes you out of the movie and it really kind of makes me question why again would you do PG-13 and like why would you show something like so I guess graphic but then go for that PG-13 rating. So
just that imbalance.
It does because it really like I get you can definitely do like a war movie or an action movie like this PG-13, but with some of the stuff they're doing, I kind of question why didn't they go rated R on this?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, it's a product that you want to sell on Amazon Prime, but I think that was a poor choice.
I feel like it still could have had a good turnout if it was R.
Yeah, like that's exactly what I'm saying. Like I feel like if it was R and like they really kind of went down and much more gritty with the action and kind of because there's a lot of moments like there's a scene where like one of the aliens is like eating a person, but like all you get is like a little rag doll for the most part out of like a dummy instead of like anything like really graphic or just like really showing you anything. So
like Jurassic Park style.
Yeah, like I guess in a sense like well no because like at least in Jurassic Park they showed off screen, but it still has weight to it. But like in this, it feels incredibly weightless and synthetic, which is something I would critique about the whole movie because you can definitely see that in stuff like the production design and a lot of the CGI. So a lot of this stuff is just, oh, this is fake. This is a movie. I don't really care. So, and then one of the only positives I can say is that J.K. Simmons gave a decent performance, but he only shows up in like 10 minutes. So, yeah. He was too busy filming for Invincible, so yeah,
of course
he was stretched thin for filming.
J.K. Simmons is pretty hard to counter, you know?
I mean, he's the perfect typecast of finding various ways to cause abuse on minor characters. See Whiplash, see the Avatar Last Airbender
Raimi
spin-off
trilogy.
show. See J. Jonah Jameson, both of them, because that's coming out soon. New Spider-Man. So,
oh yeah,
he has built a career of this character.
Yelling at people.
No, just abusing minors. Like he just yells at them
left
or,
and
like,
right.
He just gets angry at them, and he gets away with it because he's so good.
Because he's charismatic.
It's insane.
People want to be abused by him, which is why they, sign on to movies with him.
I know he was the best part of the Raimi trilogy. So
that is true.
Can't counter that.
For once, that is not your opinion.
It's the same joke. Get me joke.
That was a Jared Leto Joker laugh for you fans in the audience.
I thought that was Dracula from Sesame Street.
You want to run that by me one more time? Okay, yeah, yours is better.
Well, I don't try that.
Mm-hmm. Neither did the movie, so it's okay.
This is true. Tomorrow War does not try either, so...
Mm-hmm. Do you have anything else to say, or do you want to go on to round two?
No, I don't. Yeah, I really... Yeah. Nah, there's that.
In a true Deary sense, yeah, no. No.
There's probably going to be a sequel, and I don't know if I'm going to watch it, but let's not get our hopes up.
I would recommend not.
No, I was gonna say, well, what if it's really good, but no.
It just sounds like it would be more of the same.
It does, and there's very, very little circumstances where that would be a good thing, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, it's... Yeah.
I also think you should stop subjecting yourself to army movies. Army of the fill-in-the-blank movies, but that's a topic for another day.
Why are we talking about that in this episode, Sam?
That's gonna be the next one. I do not have the energy to do Army of Thieves right now.
Well, no. According to you, you would have to talk about nothing because that's all that happened to you. So why would you get tired about talking about nothing? That doesn't make sense.
So you're saying I would just go, Army of Thieves. Okay, done. Next, like that.
Well, you would say that, but then I would rewatch it, and then I would talk about why it is.
Grant, you're hurting yourself.
Is it the worst film of 2021? I might say so, but we're getting ahead of ourselves.
It's not even like one of the topics of this. Let's keep going. So your next one, I kind of feel bad for you because you have to do
not at all,
two in a row. Well, even though I
do two in a row, and then you're gonna offset it next
with two more.
Foreshadowing is laying hints at future events to come in the story.
Exactly. So your next movie was
Venom.
Was it?
Let There Be Carnage.
Was it streaming services and theaters or just theaters?
I think this one was just theaters because
cool.
I can't really. If it was, yeah, I think it was just theaters because I can't really figure out which streaming service it would be if it was with streaming services. So, it's me again, my second double feature, Venom 2 with Eminem. So it's good. It's good. But
Eminem's in it.
Yes, he's in the end credit rap song, which is the best thing that happened to cinema. So
Grant didn't even know what hit him.
Venom.
Venom.
I don't know that song.
It has Jake from Freebirds. Why was this one rated lower? You must explain to me.
Why did I? Okay, so
the first one was 2 out of 5, and this one was minus half a star.
Yeah, that was a 1.5. I guess for background, I don't think Venom 1 is a good movie, but I kind of think it was a guilty pleasure, at least from what I got off of my watching experience.
If the Eminem song wasn't enough.
Yeah, the Eminem song alone is like 1 star, and then I feel like the other one is like just a lot of ironic humor. Like, it's not a movie I really take seriously, and whenever it tries to take itself serious, I'm just immediately checked out. But when you kind of get some of the more like dumb stuff, like the lobster tank scene where Tom Hardy's just going like absolutely nuts, and he's just like,
I forgot about that.
He's just like beheading a lobster live on screen. Like, that's kind of the stuff I can really just turn my brain off to and really enjoy. Because I cannot remember the villain at all. I know Riz Ahmed played him, which is a waste because you don't waste Riz Ahmed like that. But it's a guilty pleasure movie, and like there's like some decent action scenes. Like, I do remember a motorcycle chase, and then the final fight was at like SpaceX or something because the Riz Ahmed was like evil Elon Musk or something. But
I don't know.
Yeah, but then
I'll take your word for it.
Well, because so I think it made a lot of money, so you can look at the box office or something, but I think
it was something in the 800 million range.
Yeah, so with that money, they're like, okay, make sequel, go. So they move it on, and the next is Let There Be Carnage. So, I mean, I guess from a story perspective, that makes sense, because Carnage is a big villain in Venom and his comics and all that, so, and Spider-Man, so it makes sense that he gets his own cinematic appearance. But I think my big problem with this one that knocks it down a star is just, it's really just uninteresting. Because, like, there's something about that first movie, and I want to rewatch it just to confirm it, but there's something about that first movie that, like, just kind of makes me, like, giggle to myself. Because, I don't know, there's just something about, like, its presentation that just really makes it just fun to watch in a dumb way. But there's something about this new one that, like, it's very flat in its presentation, has, like, way less energy to it. And none of the scenes, like, really connect. Like, I remember at the start, I felt like there was going to be something in it, because, like, there's a part where Tom Hardy, like, draws a picture, and there's, like, all this CGI on his hands, like, drawing a picture really fast. And I thought, like, the movie was going to be more of that. But there's so little that, like, it just doesn't cover. And because, like, it's only 90 minutes long, so it's a very short movie at that. And, like, it really kind of makes you feel like, oh, that's it? Because there's just not a lot of build-up. And I think, just like Tomorrow War, a big problem is that it's rated PG-13, but it is very dumbed down. So, because, like, it's Venom, and, like, I feel like with Venom himself, he would do a lot more violent stuff, which I feel like they were kind of going for in the first movie. Like, you have the scene of him like eating a person and all that, but then in the second movie, like they make a joke where it's like, you don't eat people, you eat chickens, and that's what you have to do. But
Grant
then
was personally attacked
Venom
after that one.
was like, I don't want to eat a chicken, I want to eat the humans, and then that just turns into, because that's a weird thing. Like, it really is like just like it's almost like a rom-com at points where it's like, no,
Yeah,
I don't want to
that's
be
what I
with
picked up.
you. And then, like, he leaves, and then Tom Hardy's like, finally, I can live by myself. But then it gets quite frustrating because then, like, immediately after, it's just Tom Hardy has to run after Venom and get him back. And all while Woody Harrelson becomes a Carnage and creates chaos
Yeah, he
amongst
does.
society in his stylin' and profilin' low-riding convertible. So.
If Owen Wilson were there, Venom would not have a chance.
Nah. No, he's gonna be in
Not
Venom
at all.
3. He'll
I
be
would
the
hope so.
yeah, especially considering the end credit scene. So
Wait. Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. So I
Yeah.
didn't see Venom 2, but I know what happened.
you know what?
in the
Yeah.
credit
So
scene.
I mean,
Do you
spoilers.
think that's gonna play into the next Spider-Man movie?
I don't think it's gonna play into the main plot, but I have a big suspicion that it's gonna be the end credit stinger. Like, because I mean,
Okay.
well, for context, Venom 2, the end credit scene is that we are led to believe that Venom, well, I mean, it is basically communicated that Venom is now in the MCU because you get that scene, like, they're just, like, because at the end of the movie, he's, like, in hiding in, like, Mexico or something, and he's at, like, some beach resort, but then the end credit is that he's just, like, watching the TV, but then, like, he gets, like, transported and he's still in the room, but then you see J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson, and then you see Tom Holland's Spider-Man on screen. So then you think that that is going to tie into something, but we don't know yet. So we'll see how that plays out.
We will.
Yes.
The one question that I did have for Venom: Let There Be Carnage was that from all of the reflective material that I got from the film, the big compliment that I had been hearing more often than not was just that it was more self-aware and funny with like the line-to-line dialogue. So I was wondering if you would agree with that? If you would say that there was some charm in that regard?
I would say no. I mean, it's been a while since I've seen it, so obviously details are incredibly hazy, but like I don't really think I don't think the dialogue's good in the first one, but like I didn't see an improvement in this one. If anything, it was just more of the same but with less energy. So because I think the reason people are saying it's more self-aware is because, like, unlike the first movie where it takes a while for Tom Hardy and Venom to team up, like, Tom Hardy immediately already has Venom. So, like, I guess people are thinking, oh, it has more time to, like, make all these jokes and be like that. But, like, it's the same level. It's just I don't really kind of see the self-awareness to it all. Like, it's not really kind of, like, making shots or, like, I didn't, like, get, like, in Space Jam 2 when, like, Bugs Bunny's like, oh, I have to team up with an NBA basketball player to save the world in a basketball game? Where have I seen this before? Like, I never really got a joke like that or anything in the movie, and, like, I don't see the self-awareness, to be honest. Like, it's just more of the same, but with less energy, so...
Because I
like,
wasn't expecting a Space Jam tier jab, but...
I'm not saying it's as bad as Space Jam, because, like, it's not some cynical corporate product to sell you on a streaming service or anything like that, but it's just, like, it really reminds me, because, like, I think a really big telling sign of the quality is just, like, the opening sequence, because you start off with this whole, like, flashback with Woody Harrelson, and then, like, his love interest, which is, like, his whole arc in the movie, and then you get the title card. But then, literally, the next scene is, like, you're immediately thrusted into Tom Hardy, like, talking to this police commissioner, and he's like, oh, the Carnage, he's broke loose, you gotta talk to him, or it's, like, something like that. And you're, like, immediately thrusted in, like, it's weird, because we've seen so many sequels where it's, like, we have to reintroduce everyone, so it's, like, if you haven't seen the original, but you're seeing the sequel, you need to understand this stuff. So... it just felt really weird because, like, it feels like the opposite problem of, like, you didn't really naturally flow into the conflict. You just kind of immediately chucked us in.
Through the viewer
good,
in.
yeah, without any like really good setup, to be fair.
Yeah.
So
There's that.
yeah, it's really weird because like it just doesn't have like any lasting impact. Like I know there's like one scene where it's like Tom Hardy gets a note from Woody Harrelson, and then like it's accompanied with all of these like Diary of the Wimpy Kid drawings, but like they're evil. So it's like, yeah, like there's literally a scene. I bet you could look it up, but like Woody Harrelson is explaining his backstory to Tom Hardy. He's like, "Oh, I shoved my grandma down a flight of stairs. I threw a toaster in my mom's bathtub when she was taking a bath." But like to visually communicate this to the audience, what they do is they like have all these evil Diary of a Wimpy Kid drawings, and they like accompany it. So like you have like evil Woody Harrelson like shoving a grandma down the stairs,
Oh,
and then
no!
like you have him like taking a toaster and like chucking it in the bathtub, and you have like this cartoonish looking like electrocution effect and all that.
Greg Heffley.
He's on his Joker arc.
He's on his Walter White path.
He's living in a society.
He is. That's actually, I kind of want to see that clip.
I know. Look it up.
I gotta find it.
Put it in the video.
All right. You got it.
Wow.
So yeah,
But
I guess anything else?
it said the F word, but I mean, I don't know why, especially considering the age rating, but that is rather redundant. But yeah, Venom 2 is Venom 1, but with less energy and shorter, I think. So I don't know why you would really want to check it out, but yeah, so.
At least Eminem made his glorious return.
And only one verse of the song because he had to share it with two other rappers for some reason.
Oh, what?
Yeah,
Yeah, minus half a star. Forget this movie.
So, yeah, not great. No.
Not great. Okay. Well, you've been doing a lot
I
of
pass
talking.
it off from me. Now I give it to you.
I'll take it off your shoulders from here.
That I haven't seen.
Mm-hmm.
So
This next one's a big one. It's one that I've been looking forward to a lot, thanks in part to my family.
Yeah,
and I've also been looking forward to this one a lot because it represents such a big point in entertainment's development in the industry as affected by COVID. The movie, surprise, surprise, number 3 for this video is No Time to Die, the final Daniel Craig Bond movie.
What's the Bond thing? I've only seen Casino Royale once.
Oh, it's like like that.
Yeah, something like that. I've only seen Casino Royale. This is why I've not seen No Time to Die.
I mean, if you're gonna see a Bond movie, that's like the perfect one to start
Wasn't
out
that
with, especially if it's Craig.
Isn't that like the problematic thing? Because it's like, since I started with Casino Royale, like there's not another one that tops it, so like it's all downhill from here.
Yeah, and that's not to say that they're like they're all bad.
Yeah, that's
there
true.
Are other
like
Bond
Skyfall's good. There's like
there are plenty of old ones that are fun
like
too.
Sean Connery and all that. Like,
yeah,
that's not to insinuate that all Bond films are bad except this one. It's just saying this is the bestest James Bond.
Yes.
Bond.
In my opinion, you might disagree once you've seen more of them.
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely try to get around to watching the other Daniel Craig ones. So once No Time to Die hits streaming, then I can finally watch it.
Yeah, so No Time to Die
for now
was going to be a huge. The development / production history of this movie is so big to me, and I think it's a culminating point of COVID.
Oh, all right.
As it affects the movies that come out.
I've seen that trailer like 20 times thanks to COVID.
Yeah, yeah. I'll try and recap the history behind it just so we have the appropriate context too.
Because that's what we do here. So.
Yeah. So this movie began develop. So Spectre. There are 5 Daniel Craig Bond movies.
Yes.
Spectre is number 4.
Right.
It came out in 2015. So production for the 5th and final Bond movie began in 2016.
Okay.
And Danny Boyle was the guy who was originally written on to, write and direct it.
Right.
He was the guy that was planned to do it for pretty much
Ever?
always, ever, up until 2018 when he left. And once he left, they got this guy named...
Tim
I'm
Story.
gonna pronounce it wrong. I'm sorry. Cary Fukunaga?
Okay.
Let's just pretend I didn't say that. I'm
Alright.
sorry. I feel bad for
Put it up on
pronouncing the
screen
name
so
wrong.
we can...
Yeah,
Yeah.
that guy.
Him. This guy.
He was signed on to
man.
direct it, which was this was the first of several interesting moves because this guy, I'm sure he's a good director. I would definitely say so after this, but
Okay.
he hasn't really done any other movies akin to James Bond. He
Okay,
wrote
so this is
that
like a first for him.
2017 It movie, but pretty much no other big name blockbuster or anything along those lines up until now,
Okay.
which is interesting to me.
Yeah, that's kind of a thing Hollywood does where it's like, you'll take like some indie director, like some like small name or something. It's like, okay, there's like $2 million, just make a blockbuster. And they're like, oh, okay.
Right.
So,
So, from there, what? It was going to be released in 2020 in April, but then COVID came and pushed it back to November of 2021, but then it was moved up to maybe the summer, but then more variants came out, and it eventually moved back to October of 2021 when it released.
all right. So we got pushed
And
back.
so that's, I think out of all of the movies that we've talked about, or maybe even ever in regards to COVID, this is the one that has been thrown around the most. And it cost Lionsgate so much money to move it back and forward and all over the place. At one point, Netflix offered them a lot of money to buy the movie and put it on their site,
Oh, okay.
but they still refused.
All right. So we're going
And
to do the B-Stars
because they were
move right there.
they were counting on its performance in the theater, and I guess one could argue that they wanted to maintain some sort of cinematic dignity too.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair.
That's a weird thing to say. I don't want to like talk down to streaming services, but I think they
No, I
wanted
think
to
it
like
makes sense,
maintain the
'cause, like-
cinematic feel and hype of a Bond movie.
Yeah, no, like I feel like for this one it's appropriate that it's all theater exclusive because like it feels like it'd be weird to have the final note just like, just watch it on Netflix on your own time. Like I'm glad that it had this proper theater experience despite everything that was
Yeah.
thrown at it. So I'm really glad
Also-
that we stuck out to the end like that.
Yeah, side note, I said Lionsgate. I said that because I was thinking of Metro Goldwyn Mayer's lion in the logo. It's actually Metro.
Okay, MGM. So
Yeah, MGM. That's my bad.
the funny Tom and Jerry people.
Okay, Grant. It came out. It grossed $735 million total,
Okay.
which is not bad. That's like third place out of all of 2021.
Yeah, that's true. Like so far, like even if that might seem like a low number, standardly speaking, like that's still pretty decent. So
Yeah, I think I actually have the list right here. Second place went to Hi Mom, which was, I'm pretty sure these were foreign too. And
yeah, because that's the thing. Like I
like
saw something where it's like
changing.
I think it was like the highest grossing ones were like Chinese movies or something like that.
Yeah,
And so like I think like us here in America, we've probably never heard of it, but like I'm sure they were like a huge hit over there in China. So
yeah. So, so what was I talking about? Despite that third place, there's still talks of this being a financial flop just because it costs so much money to move it around.
yeah, especially
And
with all that history.
the actual figures haven't been disclosed, I don't believe, from what I know, so I can't say. But despite that, I still think it's impressive, again, like you said, that we made it to this point, that it was released the way it was originally intended to be, and that, geez, I guess that we finally finished another era of Bond.
Yeah.
This guy's been
So
around for
now-
a long time.
How is it? Was it good?
Well, this is so hard for me to talk about without spoilers, because I don't want to spoil it. A, because you're here, and B, because I really do think
It's one of
that
those films
your
that like
experience
it's one of those where
is
it's like
elevated.
yeah, it's like The Usual Suspects. As long as you don't know the spoilers, then you get the proper cinematic experience.
Right, it's that kind of movie, and
Well,
it's
I mean,
especially elevated. Sorry.
In a way, like you could say that's the case for every movie. Like you don't want to get spoilers for
Yeah.
Rock Dog 2 Rock Around the Park. So I mean,
Yeah,
I mean,
I mean, so what was I talking about? Despite that third place, there still talks of this being a financial flop just because it costs so much money to move it around. And
yeah, Is he gone? Okay, good. Finally, this is now a podcast on live action Bambi. I will be
Okay.
cheering for this
Anyway,
product.
I'm back. Hey. I was dead for a second.
Oh.
So, what was I talking about?
Bond.
Oh yeah. So
Yeah.
this movie is elevated if you're going in without any spoilers.
Okay.
But more so if you've seen all of the other Bond movies in the Craig era up to this point.
Okay. I had a marathon
And
every
I
James
really do
Bond
mean
movie
that
ever
because-
made to get to this point.
No, just the Craig ones, because this is the first era of Bond where it's been an overarching timeline instead of 5 or 6 unrelated, isolated stories.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I guess like
It just documents the rise and
of like
the
this
rise and
version
life of this
James
one
Bond. I guess that's actually kind of
00
cool in a
agent.
sense because like that can be very reflective of like trends in the film industry as a whole. Because like you have those old Sean Connery ones and like that kind of format of it's the same guy but they're kind of disconnected. Kind of reminds me a lot of the Dollars trilogy with Sergio Leone and Clint Eastwood. How it's like the same guy and it's like it's just different connected stories, but in a way they're connected because it's Clint Eastwood playing the essentially the same character in a sense. But then it's kind of an interesting juxtaposition because now you have these Daniel Craig movies and they have like a connected universe which you could see with like Marvel and like superhero movies and all that. And so
Right,
seeing
and that
like
also
there's
rings
actual
true.
continuity that carries over from film to film really kind of reflects how we see our film franchises today. So it's like when you watch Skyfall, it's you have to see well, I don't know if you have to see Quantum of Solace, but you'd have to probably watch Casino Royale to get the proper establishment to fully appreciate that. So
Quantum of Solace is probably the most skippable, even though you can still get something out of it on the whole storyline.
all right, okay. Because I think I'm definitely gonna try to catch those movies soon, but we're kind of dancing around the topic here.
We are kind of...
I feel like the way you're talking about this, like it's like the Star Wars Last Jedi equivalent of James Bond.
It is. It
'Cause,
is.
like, it's
This
very
one goes
divisive
places
from what
that
I've
I
heard.
was not expecting. And unlike
Okay.
Last Jedi, I mostly mean that in a good way. Like,
Alright.
solid thumb up kind of way.
Okay.
So, this movie really had a lot of expectations to meet and live up to, because I didn't need it to be another Casino Royale, but
Right.
coming
Yeah.
off of the heels of Spectre, which was just a complete mess, it had a lot of cleanup work to do.
All right. So find
If
a way to
that
stick
makes
the
sense.
landing.
Just make the journey worthwhile.
Okay.
Make it a good time.
Give it a good ending.
And so if Spectre was a mess, then No Time to Die was also kind of an entourage of risks and jumps and ideas and left field developments,
All right.
but in an emotionally satisfying kind of way, if that makes sense.
Okay.
This is such a hard movie. I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah,
I'm not going
I know.
to.
I feel bad for like
But
doing this.
let me go for it. I'm going to try.
Okay.
The structure of this movie is very interesting right
Alright.
off the bat because it plays into the fact that it's been 6 years since Spectre was released
Oh, okay.
and has it take place a good solid while after the events of that, which I'm not going to spoil what happens in Spectre either,
All right.
but Bond is out and about with people, and he thinks he has put his time in the Secret Service
The life
behind him before
behind him.
some stuff goes down, and he's ultimately in a worse off position than he was before because he can't trust anyone
Okay.
anymore, he feels like.
All right.
And this is a reoccurring thing too with the Craig era. It's a very humanized sort of Bond, which you don't see a lot. He goes from kind of solicits, borderline sociopathic, I am a British tool for the British government in Casino Royale to what he is in No Time to Die, where he's like
Alright.
trying to...
Yeah, you see that progression
Be a
of his
person and
character throughout
love
these different
people.
films. So.
But the opening events of No Time to Die basically put him back in square one, and he's just
Alright.
trying to avoid people and living on the down low in Jamaica.
Okay.
Before the Secret Service tracks him down again and recruits him for something that seems like, just a small, okay, one last job type of
The
mission
final
before it eventually
heist for real
escalates.
this time.
Yeah, before it eventually escalates into
World
last
War
movie
III
in the
potential.
franchise level stakes. Yeah. So
many-
that's
yeah.
basically the setup.
So many movies today are
Again,
like, it's going to
it's-
happen World War III will happen if you fail. I'm like,
It's not that kind of thing, but I will say the jump from
there's good
small
stake
scale to large
elevation
scale
is what I'm
is
getting.
jarring, but yeah, in a good way.
All right.
It's unexpected in what the villain's motivations end up being, how they go about doing that, and how Bond plays a role in that. It's again, I can't go into specifics because it's really going to be a better time if you don't know.
All right.
But
maybe I'll do that.
how do I say this? If
I
the structure of this movie, the structure of this movie is really both the strongest and weakest points of it.
Okay.
It doesn't play out like your standard spy movie hero's journey kind of deal. It just more so goes. It's more so a character oriented thing amidst all the action, and sort of rolls from there depending on what the stakes of the story are at that point. So again, that plays into the escalation as things get more and more out of hand, and that also kind of works to the film's detriment because it keeps on building on itself to the point where it becomes overwhelmed and it has more than it knows what to do with.
Okay.
The ending of this movie, as impactful as it is, it also is kind of abrupt and has a denouement that is just as, if not more so, abrupt. So this movie sort of just has its big finale and then ends. And
All right.
in a normal Bond movie where that would be sort of acceptable, it kind
doesn't
of
feel
feels,
like this is the route it should have taken.
it doesn't feel like that you're being given the proper closure.
Okay.
Because given everything that's happened and the fact that it's like the final movie in the series, you would expect to like have an Avengers Endgame sort of deal where you have your big finale and then you see
But then like you have
how it
that
all
nice
plays
wrap
out and
up.
how it's wrapped up. But that doesn't really happen in No Time to Die, which is a shame. I would have really preferred that, but
Yeah. I see.
in some ways it makes sense and in most ways it doesn't.
Yeah.
What else is there to say? There's a really funny joke in this movie, actually, that I will bring up. Q is Bond's gadget guy.
Yes.
And he always gives Bond the gadgets
The things.
before he goes off to do his mission. And in this movie, he's going through his drawers of stuff to give Bond. He's like, okay, I've got this thing, I've got that thing. He opens one drawer, and it's just like this fancy tea kit, because they're British. And he's like, oh, sorry. And he closes that. And keeps on looking. I don't know. That was funny to me.
Which is funny Britain humor. Because
So yeah,
the British
overall,
are
if we're comparing it to the other ones, it's definitely a lot more worthwhile than Spectre and Quantum of Solace, just
Okay.
because it's going somewhere. But I don't think it has the structural or written finesse of Skyfall or Casino Royale,
All right.
just because it has so much on its plate and it's not really sure about how to go about it.
So you
I
say
think
it's in
this
the middle.
movie.
All right.
And that also carries over into the structure because the middle point is also the highlight of this movie.
All right.
It's not as down to earth or level headed as Casino Royale.
Okay.
The big threat is this mega virus that kills you instantly, which is nothing like the original Daniel Craig movie at all, but that's
Yeah.
fine.
Kind of relevant, but
But yeah, I would sincerely say the best part, like the middle third of this movie has some of the best movements in the entire series
Okay.
that are going to be better if you don't expect them. But between that and the slow start and the ending, which is just like your standard break into the villain's lair and fight them, it kind of rings hollow and doesn't really feel like the type of thing that the movie was building up to. Especially with the villain. What's his name? He was in Bohemian Rhapsody as.
Oh, Rami Malek?
Yeah, that guy.
Okay.
He's the villain. Should have been really cool, especially for the last movie, and he isn't, which sucks, but it's fine.
Why?
No, it's not fine. He's just like your standard mustache-twirling Bond villain who talks about how he's going to destroy the world. And they try to insert him... They try to do that like he was always there from the other movies that they do with like Mysterio and Far From Home, but they don't really do a good job of it.
That's like in Spider-Man 3 what they did with Sandman. He's like, no, he was the killer the whole time, and I'm like,
it's that retconning sort of thing that also kind of takes you out of it. I don't really like
when that happens in like your franchise because that really feels regressive and kind of takes away from your character's arc. So
like you didn't have a plan, Star Wars sequel trilogy tier.
Well, it's because you wanted.
So he's kind of bad, but again, the movie does a really good job subverting your expectations, and with the established characters, the routes they take them, and the way they challenge the viewer's standard perception of spy movies is very satisfying.
Okay.
And in that, I can respect it. So it's towards the better end of the spectrum. It's closer to Skyfall and Casino Royale than it is the other two.
All right.
I would watch it again, give it the thumbs up. It has some problems, but I got what I paid for, and it stuck the landing.
Yeah.
And it provided a mostly good ending to this era, and it basically reinforced why the Craig era is my favorite iteration of Bond.
I see. Yeah. That kind of seems like what a lot of people say with No Time to Die is that it's in the middle. Like, most people are like, Quantum of Solace, skip, Spectre, bit of a mess, No Time to Die in the middle. Skyfall has some good ideas, but doesn't quite hit the heights of Casino Royale. So, yeah.
I can agree with that.
Yeah, that's what most people
But No Time to Die, when I say in the middle, I also mean in a good way.
Yeah, in a positive light, not like a, more of like a, kind of a, that kind of way.
Yeah.
So, yeah, any closing thoughts on Daniel Craig and all of his actions and adventures and James Bond?
I wish him the best. I don't know what he's going to do after that. He's going to do more Knives Out stuff, from what I know.
Okay.
Which is exciting. But he was definitely my
still
favorite
haven't
Bond.
seen
I think
that,
the
but
franchise succeeded at making a human Bond that feels like a person that goes through a character arc over the course of 5 movies.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
So even if I didn't like all of them, I think they were very worthwhile, and I appreciate it.
Good job. You made a good movie.
Oh yeah.
So.
Speaking of good movies, the next one is not.
Oh.
So this will be.
Knowing the
this
original, this one's got to be kind of sad from your perspective.
This one I can spoil. This one I will spoil.
Yeah, okay. I'm fine with that because the only thing this Halloween is killing is my interest in seeing it. So.
Ah, you ruined it. I say that like I had a funny idea of how to transition into it, but I really didn't. It's Halloween
Do we
Kills.
ever, honestly? But yeah, you're right.
I think we've had some winners.
Yeah, you're right. Some work, some don't, but at the end of the day,
we're here for the fun. And if they're really bad, I can just edit them out.
That's true. We have the power of the internet at our fingertips.
We absolutely do. So, Halloween Kills. I'll try and make this brief and painless, not like kind of like unlike the movie. So I should probably. I think, is there anyone who doesn't know what the original Halloween is?
Okay, I know what it is. Sorry. I haven't seen it. So
yeah, John Carpenter's breakout hit.
Yes, the first slasher movie
that was released in. It was not the first slasher movie. That was Black Christmas, which was released in 1974. This one was 1978, but it was the first one that really put
slasher on the map.
This was the first. Yeah, this was the first slasher movie that people paid attention to.
Right. I learned about that in film
And that's
class.
because of its iconic killer. That's because of a lot of things. The score, the presentation. This is one of the first major movies that used a dolly camera to really track the point of view of the killer. Like, there's a lot of stuff that went into it that made it successful.
Yes.
So, with a successful movie, especially with horror, I'm finding, comes a lot of attempts to revitalize and capitalize off of it. So, we got, let's see.
Like, Halloween's been getting that update. They've really been milking the Predator franchise. Like, I think they're making another one.
I think that's right.
Aliens got some, because, like, you had, like, the prequel Prometheus, and then you also had Alien Covenant. Let
me see if I can.
I don't know if you'd call it horror, but I feel like you could say even Ghostbusters, because, like, they just had that new one that came out. It's in theaters right now at the time of recording, but I don't know if you'd call that really horror though, but still. Scream, that one's getting a remake.
Yeah, that Scream's getting a 5th movie. There's a lot going on there.
Yeah.
I think horror's always been the one that gets the most sequels, reboots, redos, and that's definitely the case with Halloween.
Yes.
I'm going to see if I can list off all of them. There's Halloween, Halloween 2, Halloween Season of the Witch, which is just like not even a Michael Myers movie. It's just a really cool Twilight Zone-esque anthology story.
All right.
That's not related to the series at all. And then you have Halloween's 4, 5, and 6. And then after that, I'm trying to explain the Halloween timeline to Grant in a podcast. This is going to be terrible.
Yeah.
But
Halloween
after
has a very
6,
messed up
they
timeline.
wiped the slate clean. So they made Halloween's 4, 5, and 6, and 3, I guess, even though it wasn't canon before, not canon.
All right.
And they released Halloween 7, Halloween 20 years later, as the real Halloween 3, heaviest quotes.
7 is
And so
3. Okay.
So this is the mark of a new timeline. After 7, they followed that up with 8, Halloween Resurrections, and literally nobody liked it, so they wiped the slate clean again. And they had, I almost called it a live action remake. They had a remake of the original Halloween and a sequel to that. And then that timeline was erased, and that brings us to the one that we're working with now.
Yeah, there was the original
the new
Halloween
timeline.
and now Halloween Kills.
Yeah, so this new timeline with Halloween only pays attention to the original Halloween. So Halloween 2 is also now not canon, meaning that
only the very
spoilers,
first original
even though-
Halloween
yeah.
is the.
So the twist and the twist in 2, that being Laurie Strode as Michael Myers' sister, is no longer canon. So
All right.
they're just 2 enemies now.
Okay. Yeah.
So that brings us again to this new Halloween franchise plan.
Yeah. It sounds like
it's
DC,
going to be a trilogy.
because like DC's been doing nothing but retcons this whole time.
Yeah,
We
it's
have
absurd.
to keep
It's actually
releasing new director's cuts to make up for
it is
our
comedic.
theatrical
It's
cuts.
literally
Uh,
it's literally that one part of Always Sunny where Charlie Day is on the bulletin board. That's me trying to explain this.
this guy, Pepe Sylvia, I see him everywhere, every day. I get his name. Pepe Sylvia, Pepe Sylvia. Oh, it's all boxes full of Pepe Sylvia. But,
Anyway, so this new Halloween timeline plan is going to be a trilogy, a sequel trilogy to the original Halloween.
which I find weird
started with-
because didn't the marketing for this say like, oh, this is a conclusion, we're gonna get to the
Yeah,
bottom of
yeah.
it, but
You're right.
would
That was going
not
to be a
get-
complaint, but I can bring it up now that it's misleading with how
Yeah, it's kind of like with
blatantly
Venom
bad
2,
that
like
marketing is.
yeah, like that's my problem. That was a problem I had with Venom 2, where it was like with both Venom movies, the marketing's like it was kind of like dark and edgy. It was like this isn't your normal superhero movie, and then like you turn it on, it's like has a really weird, goofy like oh I don't take myself seriously tone, but then like there are cases where it takes itself seriously. So yeah, poor marketing. Do better, Sony.
So, you have the original, not the original, but the first of this trilogy was the 2018 movie
Right.
that was very popular. I think it's one of the most successful Blumhouse movies. You have this one called Halloween Kills, and then you have Halloween Ends coming out next Halloween. And
Wait, that
do you
means
know
no more
what's going to be
Halloween?
I don't count on it.
Ever?
They're gonna do it again.
No, it's impossible.
I get-
When has Hollywood ever done that?
Literally every other time. So, do you know what Halloween Ends is going to include? This is a fun little fact that I learned right before doing this.
CGI.
Well, no. Actually, yes, but that's not what I'm getting at. So, Halloween and Halloween Kills
Right.
take place on the same night, so there's a level of continuity there.
Okay.
But
yeah,
I'm figuring out
sense.
that Halloween Ends is going to take place 4 years after the 2018 night. So that means that the subject matter in Halloween Ends is going to include A, Michael Myers, and B, COVID. Halloween Ends is going to feature COVID as a plot point.
Oh no.
Yeah. Wrap your head around that.
Well, no,
one
Michael
for a
Myers
sec,
is fine.
Grant.
He's been wearing a mask since the 80s. That's not going to be an issue.
Yep.
So
There you go. See, Michael Myers is gonna survive.
he's been one step ahead.
See, him stabbing people is a metaphor for people getting the vax.
Yeah, no. Yeah, no,
You know what I'm saying?
no, that was the thing. He just laced his knife with like Moderna. So every time he stabs someone in the arm, he's like, "No, I'm helping."
Johnson & Johnson.
I'm helping.
There we go.
Yeah,
Why,
but then
why are we mad at Michael Myers again?
the plot twist is that the Johnson & Johnson vaccine actually harms people and doesn't help them. So that's why he's the antagonist the whole time.
Foiled again. But I'm dancing around the point. I should just get this movie over with. I'm sorry for keeping you waiting.
No, it's
There's a good one on the other end of this. Let's just do it. This movie was also delayed because of COVID.
But yeah, blah, blah,
It was
blah.
going to be earlier, but now we're here. It was a dual release. It was on Peacock and theaters. And it was actually more successful in theaters than it was on Peacock.
Well, that's
Which is interesting.
kind of telling of Peacock as a service, but go off, I guess.
Yep. So, this movie is bad.
Right. Naturally.
If there's one thing that you're going to take away, that's what it should be. I warmed up a little bit to it after I was just baffled in the theater, but it's still bad.
All right.
So, how do I lean into this? Part of the novelty of the 2018 original, or not original, the 2018 sequel to the original Halloween,
Okay.
the beginning of this trilogy, was its simplicity.
All right. Doesn't really.
It dropped all of the lore from every other Halloween movie and made it a simple back-to-basic sequel where Michael Myers stalks babysitters and has a rematch with Laurie Strode after the first movie.
Okay. So.
And you have some
wiping the
themes
slate
about her
clean.
trauma from the first movie and how she's dealt with it.
Yeah, okay. Kind of like
But
Aliens.
that's
in a
it.
sense.
So-
yeah, that's good.
It brings back the atmosphere of the original. It updates it to the 21st century, but it's still there. You still have those eerie tracking shots. You have John Carpenter coming back to do the score, which is awesome.
Okay. All right. Is John Carpenter good?
You have that
John
same
Carpenter
Halloween
good?
vibe. And none of that is present in this new one. You no longer have steady cinematography or presentation. You have shaky cam, you have cuts every 30 seconds.
Ooh, no.
Because this is the bad era of Hollywood that we're dealing with here.
No, just ask for
And
the
what makes
Carpenter
it-
cut. Then you get the true cinematic experience.
Well, Carpenter didn't write or direct this. He just helped
Well,
out. 'Cause
no, make him. Force
he's a
him.
real one.
Bully him on Twitter, make him do it. Force him to do
No,
something he doesn't want to.
no, not Carpenter, please.
No, I will create a.
He's a
toxic-
happy dude living his best life. We got to leave him alone.
I will create a toxic precedent that
Grant-
will create ripples in
Grant,
the
no.
film industry, and I will be the.
What do
lead
I have to
resist-
do to get you to stop?
We'll talk later. No, off camera.
Okay. Well, the terrible presentation, which is a direct clash with the last movie, is only the icing on the cake. Because what makes this movie even worse is that it drop kicks the simplicity from the 2018 one by going back in and trying its hand again with the Halloween lore, because that worked out super well last time.
So okay, all right.
So what makes Halloween good is just that it's a simple.
It's a very effective premise that easily sucks you in, is what I'm getting.
Right, and
Okay.
the 2018 movie did that again
In a way.
and did it pretty well,
Okay,
I would say.
all right.
And I think making a sequel to that was always going to kind of betray the simplicity that you were going for with the 2018 movie, because you're just going to find more excuses to keep the story going.
Okay.
But I was not expecting the continuation to be as egregious as it was in this movie. So, step one, the first nail in the coffin, was doing that thing that the Star Wars sequel trilogy did and bring back all of the characters from the first movie and make them adults and have them play into the movie in some way, shape, or form with
okay.
Laurie Strode.
So shoehorn them in for fan service. Strike one.
They also pad out the runtime by including flashbacks to the original.
Oh,
And again, retconning all of these things and explaining that, like, what you thought happened at the end of the first movie and the beginning of the 2018 movie didn't actually happen, and this is the character that was actually there all along, guys. Trust us.
Okay.
We totally weren't just introducing them on a whim. So there's this major sheriff character that is introduced here that was established in a beginning flashback of this movie to be apparently in the first movie the entire time. Even though that's not really, you know. I really don't like this movie. And then, so, the lore of this movie is really strange because in the original and the 2018 one, Michael Myers was always just built up as this enigma, this really scary person that was human.
Okay.
But also showed no emotion and was very good at maneuvering around people and killing.
Okay. So he's a normal dude, but he's kind of a freak of nature at the same time, in a sense.
Yeah, this realistic normalcy.
Yeah, again, the simplicity.
That
it's
kind
very
of
easy to
led
buy
into the predator-prey kind of dynamic between Mike Myers and Laurie Strode. And it's directly portrayed in Kills when they decide to turn Michael Myers into a ghost or some sort. Like they describe him like he's
like a supernatural spirit of senses.
They talk about like how Michael Myers is some sort of supernatural core of evil in Haddonfield, Illinois, and how every kill makes him stronger, and he feeds off of the negative emotions in the town, which you could argue that's metaphorical, and it probably is in many ways.
All right.
But the fact that they're taking that angle with Michael Myers and just kind of painting him in that light is really weird, because that was never really a lens that he was analyzed through, if ever, in the other movies. He was just a really dangerous obstacle that you had to stop but couldn't.
Got it. All right. So
and that does kind of carry over into how he's a mechanic in the movie too, because he'll just teleport, he'll just move all over the place.
So the simplicity is kind of
it's very strange.
Yeah.
The lore of this movie also retcons the film further by explaining that he broke out of the mental asylum that he was in and made his way back to Haddonfield just because he wanted his old house back. Like, he had some sort of nostalgic connection to his childhood home. Which is really weird. Because in the original, the implication was always just that he stalked people randomly to kill them. In the 2018 movie, it was established that he was also on the run and just went after Laurie Strode out of revenge or something.
Okay, yeah.
His motivation was always ambiguous, and that's what added to
the kind of
ambiguous nature, I guess, and how much of an enigma he was, right? But in this movie, they basically just go straight up and confirm, like, no, Michael Myers is just, like, trying to get back to his house and live in it, I guess.
Weird.
For some reason.
The only house you should be living in is the house up, and this ain't up, buddy.
Like apparently he doesn't even care about Laurie Strode anymore, which is weird. Like, again,
well, he doesn't care
I'm
about
saying
her,
this is weird a lot, but the fact of the matter is that they're not caring enough to stay consistent to what they're doing, because they're deviating from everything they've built up. So first of all, Laurie Strode is just, like, not an object of Michael Myers' goals at all, which, fine, I don't need to, like, know everything about what he wants and what he doesn't, but to have Michael Myers not want to go after Laurie Strode and just want to go home is counterproductive to what the trilogy is even going for here, because
what are you gonna do in the third movie now?
Yeah, Halloween Ends is specifically built up to be the final matchup between Michael Myers and Laurie Strode. And even though the 2018 was good enough as is, like, you don't need to watch past the 2018 one, if you even watch it. But by having one of the two characters that's going to star in the final movie's mashup not even care about the other character that they're going up against, just really devalues the whole thing and make me wonder why you even bothered. Like, what are the stakes if one of the characters just doesn't care about doing it?
Dang, yeah. Yeah, this kind of is, like, sounding a lot like what's going on with Resident Evil as a series, because it's really weird, because, like, they they were going downhill, and then it's like that 6, and everyone hated 6, so they're like, okay, clean slate, new protagonist, and they make 7, which is a very big deviation because like it's first person and there's much more emphasis on the horror than the survival part. And like they do all these new ideas, and like it's not like you get all the usual stuff you would get with Resident Evil. So like the Umbrella Corps out, all the typical characters you don't see. But then with the ending of 7, it's a little problematic. Slight spoiler, but well, major spoiler I should say. But Chris Redfield, who is like a big player for Resident Evil, like he shows up, and then like it says, oh yeah, the Umbrella Corps is in this universe again, but like it wasn't involved in the plot. What they do with 8, though, is a little problematic because they start to implement those old ideas back into the story in a sense. Like, I wouldn't say with Resident Evil Village that's as bad as it sounds here with kills, because they still do try to do something original in that game with, like, this whole plot, even though it is a lot like Resident Evil 4 in a sense. Because, I mean, in a way you could say Village is just a mashup between 7 and 4, which on paper should be the best horror game ever made, because 4 and 7 are hailed as like amazing horror games in their own regard. But the reason that those two games work is because they're very separate in how they do it, because 4 is much more campy and just kind of like doesn't take itself too seriously, while 7 is like extremely focused to like give you a horrifying experience. So to see 8 take that like middle road where you have like one section that just feels like you're wandering around this castle, but then you have a section that's very like kind of psychological and really messes with you, but then you have one section in a factory that feels more just like a shootout more than a horror game. Like it does feel like it does deviate more, and it's kind of slowly slipping back into what it normally always is. So
yeah, I can see that comparison.
But like from what I'm hearing, this is what like with Halloween it's much worse than what's going on with Resident Evil. So
yeah, Halloween is really jarring. This movie has none of the atmosphere or mood from the previous 2 movies in its own timeline. And all of the pre-established characters are handled very weirdly. Laurie Strode, like the protagonist, the girl that started it all, is not in the movie at all. She's hospitalized for most of it, and she's talking to the sheriff that was in the flashback.
That's weird.
Which I don't get, because what you're left with is just all of the characters, A, that were brought back for the original for fan service, like Tommy Doyle, and B, all of the characters from the 2018 movie that are not even explored in an interesting way here. One of my favorite parts of the 2018 movie was how it examined how Laurie's trauma from the very first movie ruined her relationship with her daughter and granddaughter, to the point where they're estranged and don't want to be together. That was an interesting enough dynamic that carried the emotional core of the movie in the 2018 version, and none of that is present here. The characters don't really talk to each other that much, and most of the movie is spent with all of the characters that are not Laurie Strode forming a lynch mob to basically go track down and kill Michael Myers, even though your only option at this point is basically to nuke Haddonfield. Like, there's no other way Michael Myers is gonna die.
Haddonfield is canceled. You gotta leave. We're getting rid of it. We're gonna. It's
so
it's the same plot point from
that.
Sting,
And
the bank
even
forecloses the whole city.
Even with that, they don't even handle the lynch mob thing well, because they just do the opposite of what a mob would do and split into groups to cover more ground, I guess.
Why?
Yeah, they split into groups to
That's not how mobs work.
scour.
That's
I
the
don't
opposite
know,
of a mob.
to find Michael
They're
Myers.
small groups.
And guess what? He's gonna show up and kill them because you split up. And granted, yeah. So that hate mob, there's a lot to unpack here. I'm sorry, I'm gonna try and go fast, but that hate mob, well, the mob part unpacks its way into the major theme of the movie, which is the problematic nature of hate mobs, which is a weird angle for a Halloween movie to take, and it's not done very well, because the way it criticizes what hate mobs do is by doing a bait and switch, by having them track down this guy that they think is Michael Myers, but then just have it be this escaped mental ward guy that's also on the run that is mistaken for Michael Myers, and he dies instead by killing himself, and they all just go, dang, I guess we shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
So basically that's all the characters have to do before Michael Myers just shows up and killed them. And so none of the groundwork picks up where the 2018 movie laid it down. And none of it really sets up the next one. It never really sets up the next one well at all, because again, one of the parties just doesn't care. He just wants to go home.
I don't want to be here.
So I don't understand what you're doing here.
Dang.
The one thing that puts this movie that
makes it better.
the one
than
thing
like
that I like about this movie that I give it credit for, that make it watchable for me, is the violence. And this is going to be different for different people because some people might be more squeamish than others, but Halloween Kills absolutely lives up to the second part of that title. Michael Myers is terrifying in this movie. He was always kind of methodical and kind of calculated in how he went around in the other two movies, but in this one, he is just brutal.
That's it. Like, I'm done. Yeah, like in the trailer or something.
Like he seems angry in this movie.
Yeah, like in the trailer, I remember there was like they're burning the house down, and like he walks out on the porch.
Yeah, I want to talk about that.
And then like one of the firemen, he just takes an action, just splits his head open like American Psycho style.
So the beginning of this movie starts with that house burning sequence. Some fire. It's actually kind of funny. It's one of my favorite jokes in the movie. Some firefighting characters go in to douse the fire. One of them falls into this bunker where Michael Myers was left to die in the last movie. And he's like, dispatch help, my leg is broken, help. And the other guy goes, all right, we're sending some guys down there to get you. Don't worry, everything's gonna be fine. And like the literal second he says that, Michael Myers just busts down a door and starts running after him.
Oh no.
Which is kind of funny.
No.
But then that ignites another... Again, the kills in this movie are insane. Michael Myers goes and kills the firefighters one by one with fire pokers. Like you said, he takes one guy's saw and splits his own head open with it. Like, it's a lot. My favorite kill in that movie, and the one that like really made me go like, oh my god, Michael Myers is a beast, is the one where Michael Myers is wiping out these people in a car because, again, the mob split up even though they shouldn't have. And this lady is trying to save the people in the car by shooting at Michael Myers with a handgun, and she's getting closer and closer, almost about to kill him. And then the second she's about to unload the finishing shot, Michael Myers kicks open the door to one of the cars, and that hits her hand hard enough to the point where she spins the gun around as she pulls the trigger, and she shoots herself.
Ooh.
Like, just one kick and she's out. It's insane.
Yeah.
Michael Myers is scary in that movie, and that carries... And again, the characters he's going after don't have a personality at all.
Well, that's kind of the thing. Like, with slasher movies,
the
it's
movie,
like...
really?
In a way, it's like you kind of want to see, like, the slasher, like, kind of, like, take people off one by one. So, like, I guess in that regard, like, that could be kind of satisfying. And like,
in that regard, it definitely delivers. It gets the job done.
But
Michael Myers kills everyone. He wipes out the people that were in his house. He kills kids. Like, it's a lot.
Children.
Yeah. And that carries the movie so hard.
Dang.
I can't get over this. There's one where, like, this lady is like has a knife, like is holding him at knife point, and he just grabs a kitchen light and breaks it against a table and uses that as a knife without even hesitating.
Dang.
And like he gets this other guy and stabs him with all of his kitchen knives at this, like, oh my gosh.
Deadpool 2.
It definitely delivers in that regard. But in every other sense, it's just like, okay,
I gotta watch it. I gotta watch this movie now. I gotta watch it. You sold me.
Yeah, no.
I need to see the original first, actually. So.
Just the original is what I would say.
Not the.
That one is sincerely a good slasher movie, and
fair.
It's so weird watching that and seeing all these other ones trying to expand the Halloween lore and cash in on something that was only made to be a standalone story.
Interesting.
Like, I put up with the 2018 one, even though that was very obnoxious with its fan service, but Halloween Kills just ramps it up. more fan service, more violence, which is cool, I guess.
For better or worse.
But
Yeah.
more of bad stuff too, and I'm not. Halloween ends. I don't think so, guys.
We're like Halloween in this franchise now.
Please.
No, just wait. They're gonna just retcon the timeline again and start over.
Yeah.
No.
So it doesn't handle anything that was set up or that it introduces well. The end. I'm sorry for talking that
No,
long.
you're good. That's why we're here. So. Besides, we still have one more movie.
I don't even care about Halloween that much. It just makes me mad.
Oh, but you like John Carpenter? Isn't he like your favorite director or something?
He is my favorite director.
Like-
I'm talking about the franchise as a whole. So his first movie is really good,
Yeah.
and I'm glad he came back.
He got some work
To help
That's
out.
Good. He got to do something.
Yeah.
So.
Watch John Carpenter's movies and not these.
I don't know. I might do that, but no, who am I kidding? I am going to do that. But anyways, so now.
Let's top it off with the opposite movie.
Yeah, with the best movie on the list, hands down.
I can agree with that.
Okay, yeah, I would definitely. I mean, out of the ones I talked about, like this one, like clears both of them entirely, indefinitely. But
Right.
yes.
You want to introduce it?
Yes, Denis Villeneuve's Dune.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. This is also a
good
movie that was tossed
Yeah,
around with
really
release dates,
good.
right?
Yeah, I think something like that. But remember, it was crazy because at the start of this year, everyone was like insanely hyping up this movie where it's like most anticipated movie of 2021. It's got to be Dune, and so it was really.
I gotta be honest.
You got to be honest.
I was not expecting this movie to be as successful as it was because I didn't know that there was such a big target audience for Dune.
Well, I think.
Or at least a target audience that was like hungry for a new sci-fi IP,
Well,
I guess maybe.
If you ask me, I think it goes back to the director, Denis Villeneuve, because knowing his filmography, he's made, like, some incredibly good sci-fi movies. Like, his last movie was Blade Runner 2049, which many have hailed as, like, a masterpiece. So, getting to see him take up the camera once more and do an adaptation of a very particular
Acclaimed.
piece of sci-fi media and put his spin on it was certainly something that a lot of people wanted to see, myself included. So, in fact, isn't this the only movie on the list we've both seen?
Yep, this is the only one
So,
that lines up.
yeah, it's a real Star Wars Last Jedi.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Fun fact, this is actually the third adaptation of this book.
yeah, oh, yeah, that's right. I know David Lynch did one,
You had
and
the-
then there was, like,
you have the
another
David-
guy.
yeah. There was a mini-series in 2000 or something
Yeah.
that I don't know a lot about.
Yeah. So,
But then for this movie, the rights were acquired in 2016, and they only just now released it because of the pandemic.
it's just...
And
This was HBO Max
Grant,
and
you were
theater.
talking about this. Yeah. Yeah, let's keep track of that too.
Oh.
HBO Max and theater.
Mm-hmm.
Something about The Last Duel and Ridley Scott.
Oh, yeah, that was, we were gonna end on that, but...
Oh, do you want to do it now or later?
I think we could end on that, just a little kind of extra bonus,
Okay.
but, so...
Okay,
yeah.
cool. So,
Dune.
I guess, have you read the novel?
I have not. The only experience I have with Dune is Villeneuve's film, so...
Okay, cool. I did read the novel
Okay.
once I heard the movie was coming out.
Alright.
And I know my dad did too. As for the novel experience, when it came out, I think in the 60s, everybody hailed it as something that was supposedly unfilmable. Just because the scale was so big and there was so much sci-fi stuff going on that I guess just people's standards at the time made it so that if they saw something like this, it would have blown their minds. They just couldn't
Yeah,
fathom
it
it.
sounds something like
Or they couldn't
Watchmen,
imagine a book
kind
of that
where
magnitude
they were
being
like,
adapted.
You can't make an
Yeah.
adaptation of Watchmen, but then 2009 showed the haters wrong, am I right?
Oh, it sure did.
Sure did, yes sir.
Thanks, Zach.
The bestest
So, yeah,
film
we got
ever
our
filmed.
best boy.
That's right.
We got our real best boy, Dennis, on to do this movie.
Yes, he made the scale very large.
I have read the book again, and I gotta say, I'm not the biggest fan of it.
Okay.
And just because I feel like they took a story which on its own could be maybe 400 pages and made it double that, which I'm not a big fan of.
Yeah.
And that's
for
part of the
brevity.
reason why that's part of the reason why I think Dune as a movie is probably better off as a book in this instance, which isn't always the case, but I would argue it here.
Okay.
Because Dennis is... I like calling him Dennis. I'm sorry. I'm not going to stop. Dennis is such a talented director and a visionary because with his visuals and like the way he's
his
able
scale,
to
that's the big
take in a world
for
and
him.
translate it to a screen,
Yes.
he is able to take like 5 pages worth of description in a book and just translate it over to like 5 seconds worth of screen time, which makes it a lot more tolerable.
Gives it more brevity.
So whereas in the book you're reading about
some giant
I don't
structure
know
with
sand compactors for 2 pages or something.
It's like, boom,
this
visual,
movie is
done,
able
let's
to
go.
like introduce sand compactor.
Boom,
5
go,
seconds,
done.
you're
Great.
done.
Yeah.
So that makes it a lot more bearable.
Okay.
Another thing that this movie does that I think was better than it was in the book is the relationship between Paul and his mom, Jessica.
Yeah.
Because I think it's fair to say that's like the emotional core of the book, right? Or the story.
I haven't read the book, so I guess you're gonna have to answer that for yourself.
Well,
So in a way, that's gonna be your
movie.
opinion.
ooh. Well, I say it is. And I also say that the novel does a poor job emphasizing this because if it didn't talk about how Jessica was Paul's mom, you would have no idea reading it because they barely talk to each other. They always address each other like they're business partners in a way that like I never really bought the relationship between them.
Okay.
Dune, the movie, really fixes this problem by pitting them together and giving them a lot more conversations that feel like their mother and son.
Alright.
I appreciate Dennis taking the time to make Jessica look worried when Paul goes in for that test
Yeah. At the start,
with the lady. Yeah.
the hand box.
That
pain.
that level of motherly concern
Yes.
really helped sell me on that
a real
relationship. So
secret
in
of
that
Nim,
sense,
if
I
you
also
will.
think it's an
So.
improvement. Oh, yes. That might be why I like it so much.
Yes.
But yeah, that kind of leans into our thoughts on the movie.
Yeah.
I guess overall, very good.
I think I caught this one on HBO Max. I kind of wish I caught it in theaters, but I think a lot of the technical work, as you said, is very good.
It's really
A lot
good,
of the cinematography is incredibly on point. I really like the score. There's a lot of great pieces of music that really amplify a lot of the scenes. I think the editing was really on point. A good flow and transition. I think a lot of the production design and the special effects, if I haven't already said, those really helped to legitimize the sci-fi setting of this film as a whole. But
It's really interesting. It's a movie that's more
it's more technical work
spectacle
than,
over story.
Yeah.
Like it's all set up, and yet it's still
That's true,
very
'cause the
interesting.
thing is that-
because you're sold on all of it and the characters are good, right?
The thing is that this is a part 1, which the movie makes
Yeah.
perfectly clear at the start because it says Dune part 1, and then they have confirmed part 2 is coming out later. So,
yeah.
but it is still interesting because like the majority of this movie is literally just setup, and yet I'm perfectly fine with this because it does a good job fleshing out these characters and doing a good subtle way of establishing the relationships and where everyone is and what everything means. So I definitely want to rewatch it, considering that we only have like 2 days left before it gets taken off HBO Max for a while, so might need to get on that. But for the time being, it's kind of interesting because I feel like after it came out, a lot of people kind of turned on the movie because of its story. Like, I don't really see anyone critiquing this movie in terms of like filmmaking because Villeneuve is
There's
quite
not a
talented.
lot to critique there.
Yes, but like it is kind of interesting because it's like, oh, it's all set up or stuff like that. I'm straw manning, but it is kind of weird because like it's, and when you see like all of these anticipated movies, it feels so weird to like finally get them, and now people are just like, oh, it's not what I was expecting. Like, huge example that we aren't going to talk about in this episode is Eternals. Like, I remember so many people in their Instagram pages were like, most anticipated movies for the rest of 2021, got to put Eternals on there. And
It's an MCU movie. You gotta.
no, it's a DCEU movie disguised as an MCU movie, and it
Stop it,
painfully shows. And did not find it enjoyable, and I watched it in D-Box, and I was very disoriented, and
Grant, D-Box flashbacks. It's okay. The sun's getting real low. You're gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay.
But
It's okay.
yeah, I mean, Dune good.
Yeah, I have nothing against Star Wars, but it's interesting and it's nice to see a movie that is a more intellectual take on sci-fi.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Like, Star Wars is very simplistic in a way. Like, it has its own rules and settings and whatnot. But
in its movies, especially the original trilogy, is endearing in a really fun way.
But like, it's not trying to push the boundaries or do like crazy stuff with its sci-fi. It's like, it's a sword, but it's in the future, so like
So to have a movie do like
to see it kind of like do all this crazy stuff, like, oh, we're gonna talk about politics, we're gonna have like an assassination attempt and like all this kind of like high society stuff, but within this like super advanced sci-fi setting is rather well made. Yes.
Yeah, I appreciate the commitment to that. They really is the story and the technicalities of how that political landscape works.
Yes. Indeed.
You want to talk politics, Grant?
Are we gonna go there now? Are we gonna get there?
Can we talk about how the villain Duke of this movie, literally bathes in oil?
Yes.
I got some political subtext there.
Is this just the America meme where America oil?
Oh yeah. That's the cheap joke I was going for.
Where was America? Why weren't they in there?
Where was America?
This was not America. Childish Gambino was quite angry at that scene. He was frustrated, and he wrote an angry review, and he mailed it to Villeneuve.
Sweet.
So
there's another side to the Dune story as well.
Because we only saw Zendaya for 5 minutes, and everyone got mad because they thought they would get more Zendaya, but that was not the case. So
it's a setup. It's fine.
No,
we'll get more Zendaya. Don't worry.
I'm not super mad at the story yet because I want to see where part 2 goes.
And even if part 2 is bad, I can still look at part 1 and say, yeah, this was. If you're gonna set up a story, this is probably a really.
It's not like a movie in of itself can like ruin the experience of another movie. Like, I guess there can be instances where like you have a sequel and like it really tarnishes everything about the original, but in a way you can just suppress that.
Halloween Kills.
I was thinking of something else that I mentioned, but sure, let's go with that. So. Yeah, but.
Ridley
Dune,
Scott.
good. Denis Villeneuve, good. Good film.
Ridley Scott, mad.
Oh, you want to go there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless there's anything else.
Dune, good. So, good job, Dennis. I will rewatch this and Blade Runner 2049 soon. But yeah. I guess our final little...
I need to see Blade Runner 2049.
It's really good. I don't know what happened in it, but it was
really
good. It had Ryan, literally me, Gosling in it, so it can't be bad.
The Jazzster, man.
The Driver.
Le Driver. Your two favorite movies.
He is literally me. He is literally me. But, anyways.
But yeah,
the final...
there's even with this movie, there's some controversy.
With Dune?
Yeah, because of what Ridley Scott said.
No, that was a different... Oh, okay. Transition. Should I give the context here?
Yeah.
All right. So, recently there has been a controversy where there was a movie that came out called The Last Duel, which was directed by Ridley Scott, the guy that did Alien, Gladiator, the original Blade Runner, speaking of which. But... an Alien. Yeah, right? The original Alien. Aliens was James Cameron. So...
Okay.
And you don't like that film, but...
what?
You gave it a 3. That's a bad...
That is above average.
Well, okay, we're getting off topic, but...
Reel it back, reel it back.
So, Ridley Scott was making his newest movie, The Last Duel. And commercially, people are calling it a flop. I think it only made I think it made $100 million box office, or it just didn't...
I can check.
Yeah, but... Everyone was calling it a flop. And so in response, Ridley Scott in an interview was like, the issue today is millennials are just on their phones and they don't want to like appreciate a good movie and like blah blah blah, and like he was slamming the general audience and was very critical of their watching behaviors of films today, which to me kind of rang out somewhere in the same vein as like when Martin Scorsese did the whole MCU not cinema little comments in 2019. And speaking of Denis Villeneuve, it's quite funny because he's been very adamant about not liking superhero movies. He has been very scathing on post-credit scenes. He thinks that superhero scripts are terrible, or that was Ridley Scott. So
he does. Wait, Dennis doesn't like post-credit scenes.
He hates them, which is so ironic.
Oh, that's kind of funny because I waited through Dune for a post-credit scene.
Yeah, it's so ironic because like with Dune, his the recent release, you'd feel like this is the exact movie where a post-credit scene would be slapped in there. So
yeah. I found the Last Duel's performance.
Okay.
So it had a budget of 100 million, and it made 28.9 million. So yeah, Ridley Scott has reason to be upset.
Oh no. But yeah, so I guess
that wasn't part of the plan.
We were just going to discuss this topic. But,
yes.
I mean, it was actually interesting because over the Thanksgiving break, I had lunch with a friend from high school, and we had a really good conversation about just like movies and the film industry and general audiences. But like, I think we made a lot of great points, but we just talked about how with superhero movies nowadays, it's a lot harder for just anything to really get off the ground. Because
I agree with that.
I think with movies, especially if you want to put them on the market, you need to find that fine balance between being a product and being a piece of art. Because, like, and there can, like, when you get a good movie, like, I'll say the Lego movie, for example, which toes that line perfectly, you find a way of making a really good, like, well-made, powerful piece of art that has a lot of great messages to drive home. But at the same time, it's a really good, just, like, fun product movie that you can just, like, watch and enjoy. But it's interesting because, like, with our atmosphere nowadays with streaming services and everything, like, you can find ways of, like, really pushing those boundaries. I'm not going to make that comparison. I was going to, but I don't want to anymore.
I can feel it, yeah.
I don't want to.
I can feel you going for it.
Well, actually, no way. I mean, like, with Mitchell's versus the Machines, in a way, you could feel like that was a bit more focused on how it worked with more kind of artwork rather than being a product, because thanks to its Netflix backing, I guess it didn't really have to worry too much about making its money back, in a sense.
No.
In a way, but
I can see that. So. I think that definitely is true. Mm-hmm. I want to say there are some cases, maybe with stuff like Wes Anderson, who just released the French Dispatch, where you can have a movie that is specifically art, tried and true, that does get attention purely by reputation of the director.
Yeah, like that's kind of what happened with Dune in a sense, because like I feel like a huge draw to the reason that did so well box office speaking was just, it's him gonna do another like huge scale sci-fi film, and a lot of people wanted to see that after all of his success with stuff like Arrival and Blade Runner 2049. So it feels like when you have those big name directors that have a good track record, people are gonna build up that reputation and say, I want to see it. Like, I guess in a sense you could say that's kind of what happened with Last Night in Soho. At least I felt that personally, because knowing Edgar Wright's track record and how much I enjoy his movies, that definitely is what drew me to see it in theaters, even though not a lot of people, I would say, saw it in theaters, unfortunately. But I'm the vocal minority there, so. But. Yeah. Anyways. Superhero movies.
Unfortunately, that does seem to be the case. I would agree with that. And it's extra rough, too, because due to the snitch theaters are in because of COVID, where most of the money is probably going to be made, on average. I could be wrong.
Yeah. I think we'll be looking at
movies that are really going to be, like, screened for an extended period of time are going to be the ones that make the most money or sell the most tickets, and that's usually not going to be the art house ones.
Right. Because I think, so in terms of like The Last Duel, I think a bad problem, like, I haven't seen it, but I think a huge problem was the marketing, in a sense. Because, like,
Yeah,
knowing Ridley
it's just not
Scott,
marketed
he
as
makes a
much
lot
either.
of really good movies. I mean, again, Alien is a real genre, game changer. Gladiator was a really fun historical movie that had no right being as good as it was. Blade Runner was one of the most influential sci-fi movies at the time as well, so I don't feel like The Last Duel in of itself inherently was going to be bad, but I just feel like we didn't have enough interest in a way. So,
Yeah. I think COVID amplified the
yes.
problem of lack of advertising for movies that aren't what make the most money, and also
Because still, we don't have like
audience
general,
interest in
we still
it.
don't have like
Yeah.
100% general audience members just going out and about and say like, oh, this sounds interesting, buys a ticket. Like, we just don't have that quite yet. And honestly, I don't know if
Right.
we're ever going to get that back at this rate, but
We might not, yeah.
so-
I was kind of confident that that wouldn't be the case, but looking at it now, viewership in theaters was always going down before COVID, and even though they are making a comeback, the streaming services have really made big steps in the world to cement themselves in a spot where theaters usually would have taken up.
yeah, I would say so, because again, it goes
So
back
I
to
would
what we
say-
said at the start of the episode with this whole comparison between the rise of all these streaming services versus how theaters are adapting. So,
Yeah.
it will be
So
something. that
there
people
is
need
some
to watch.
truth in that statement, but I don't think superhero movies are bad. but-
I mean, I would say like in certain, like, I definitely think it's a case by case situation, because like you could have a movie like Shang-Chi, which is like,
Eternals.
well, I mean, you could have a situation like Shang-Chi, which I feel like is like split down the middle, where it's not really special or anything, but it's not like the worst thing. But then you get something like Eternals,
Okay.
where it's just a mess that it's a really dumb film, just not good. But then in the flip, you can get something like the Suicide Squad, which like has a good, clear vision with consistency,
Really, really good.
and good, well-written characters that I want to watch and see their arcs unfold in a good, concise runtime. It's very easy in and out. It doesn't even have to have deep themes or anything. It's just I can sit down, I can enjoy it, I can get something out
Great
of it.
movie
It's got
with a great
I
shark.
know it's got a great cast too. So it's gonna get us
We've come full circle back to the Suicide
Yeah.
Squad, haven't we?
the
So,
like
yeah.
one of the only
Superhero movies
really
are-
good movies of 2021, but society doesn't
Yeah.
want to let you enjoy it. So,
So, I think industry trends that have been sped up by COVID are definitely to blame for this, but that's not to say that the movies that are taking up all the space are always bad. It's just that
yeah.
the good movies that are overlooked deserve more room to
Yeah,
shine.
that's true. And it's not like every single movie is like a superhero movie. Like, you'd get like a horror movie in there, or it's like there might be like an animated movie playing at the time.
Halloween Kills made a lot of money. Yeah.
Exactly. And like that's a whole other conversation where it's like you could get like these terrible movies, but they still get like do great box office speaking. So, which kind of plays into my philosophy that box office never equals quality in a movie, but
Quality? No, it
it
doesn't.
doesn't. But that's another episode. Truly.
All right. Yeah. Another time, another place. For now,
Yeah.
with COVID trends, the only other thing we're looking at is just another variant, Omicron.
Oh boy. It's never gonna end.
Travel restrictions are kind of back, mostly in South Africa when it was discovered. More information is being seen in the UK, but for now, that's just kind of where we're left.
Yeah.
The ball keeps on rolling.
The only thing I can think about when you say Omicron is the guy from Futurama. Omicron, the ruler of Persei 8.
Oh, is that a guy?
Yeah, there's
I
a-
haven't seen that show.
There's just a character who's like screaming the whole time. He's like, "I'm Omicron of the ruler of Persei 8," and like they always make these jokes, and then it's like you see him at like Comic-Con one episode or something like that. But it was
Nice.
very funny.
I believe you.
Yes.
Sweet.
But yeah.
Well,
So,
any thoughts on that variant or what'll happen, or are we good?
but we'll see. I mean, I feel like I'm just now hearing
Yeah,
about this.
just gotta wait and
so
see.
I guess.
I'm kind of afraid that things are gonna go back to episode 1 private screening era, but we'll see.
Yeah, it'll be, we will regress so much. I go back to living in a dorm on campus instead of an
Yes,
apartment.
with Overwatch.
Yeah, with the Overwatch servers.
Oh yeah. Well, for now,
But yeah,
I had a great time
another great
recording this
episode.
episode with you.
5 down. It's a whole hand.
Yeah.
Whole hand of fingers.
For anyone listening, thank you for watching.
Oh.
All critiques, questions, and
Leave a comment
things
if you
to
have
say
a
are
question.
welcome.
Because we still, at the time of this recording, don't have any questions to answer yet, but you could literally be the first person to do it.
Yes, you could be the first
holding
person.
the iPhone. Look at me. Go to the comments. Say something about how dumb
All
my
right, but
voice
yeah.
is. But yeah.
Again, King Shark is pretty epic. Don't watch the live-action Bambi. Grant, you got anything?
Yes, first opinion, no one second opinion. I will be thoroughly watching this film and analyzing
No.
it. Okay, we're
No.
not talking about this now. Let's just pack it up. Just pack it up.
Yeah, let's get out of here.